Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So I was thinking, it was fantastic that we've been reading a book by a female author, so I thought, I'll do another book by a female author. I also as well thought, it's been a long time since we've had a non-British author. So I'm going to go for a book by a non-British female author, but not perhaps the one you're thinking of, Matt. So we are going to experience Camera Obscura by Lloyd Rose.
This book was made famous because it's in a photo with Kylie Minogue.
Is it? Okay.
I think it was during the filming of her Come Into My World music video.
Ah, okay.
There's a picture of her asleep on a couch with this book next to her.
Okay.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well, Chris. We're in the middle of summer here, and happy unofficial 100th episode for us. Technically episode 89, but if you add in all of our specials and whatnot, this is our 100th.
Cool. Excellent.
And we've also recently seen the second half of the, Series 1, you'd call it.
Yes. I think that's what they call it, yes.
Comprising Dot and Bubble, Rogue, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and Empire of Death.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the second half of the series?
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I thought it stuck the landing. I watched The Legend of Ruby Sunday with my mum, who hadn't seen any of the rest of this season. And sort of I just gave her like a very brief potted history, and she loved it. Because I was kind of thinking, we'll see how we go with this. She then did watch The Devil's Cord by accident when she was trying to watch part 2 and thought that The Devil's Cord was unsuitable for children.
Oh, jeez.
But also, I think my mum's view of what is suitable for children is probably slightly out of date. Because like my mum, when she was a primary school teacher, watched the Troughton era pretty much like on original broadcast so that she could understand what the kids were talking about in school on Monday.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of gives you an indication as to what she might be comparing it to.
She's not a Mary Whitehouse then.
No, she's not a Mary Whitehouse. Oh, no. Hasten. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not a Mary Whitehouse.
Good.
No. She found it rather, I think, grim, etc. and everything, but she found Ruby Sunday gripping.
Well, for me, I really enjoyed Dot and Bubble and Rogue. I thought those were quite well done, and I was pleased with myself for picking up on all the microaggressions in Dot and Bubble and wasn't surprised at all at the ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, the two-part finale wasn't really my cup of tea. I thought Legend of Ruby Sunday was a bit of a waste of an episode and the build-up. I have a challenge to RTD. Please make a season finale where the stakes are about a single person or a family and not the entire Earth's population dying or the galaxy or the universe. I would love to see an intricate and intimate story, so that is my challenge.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to take you up on that.
Or listen to our podcast, but that's okay.
No, probably not. No.
I did enjoy the new Tales of the TARDIS tied to Pyramids of Mars. I thought that was fun.
Yes, I loved Dot and Bubble. Yeah, I was suspecting something, I have to say. Yeah, because, I can't say that I picked up on all the microaggressions on first watch, but I was certainly thinking, oh, hang on, there is something off about her. I thought with Ruby Sunday, like the two-parter, I found the reveal of her mum, I thought it was interesting and important that she was just like a regular person rather than like the Rani or Susan or the TARDIS. But I also kind of thought, well, what in 73 yards was the future Ruby mouthing to or saying to people? because I assumed it was something to do with that, and the whole thing of Sutek just sitting on the TARDIS.
Yeah, that has spawned so many memes, and you think about the things he was present for and has seen.
Well, he was blown up in Frontios.
And became Idris in The Doctor's Wife.
Yes.
Yeah, that was...
It was an interesting take. I must say it would have made more sense, I think, for Sutek to have been there and been summoned at the edge of time or the edge of the universe by the Doctor using salt. That would have made more sense. And that he then managed to kind of like glom onto the TARDIS at that point.
In the In Vision commentary, Russell makes a mention of the reason he settled on Ruby and her mom being ordinary was because he didn't care for how J.J. Abrams had rewritten Rey's origin in between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So in a way, it was a response to that, which I'm all for. I was more kind of in line with Rian Johnson's take in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that same criticism could be applied to the Doctor being something special versus just being an ordinary person who decides to run away from Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And kind of the whole timeless child arc too. So
yeah, I'm with him that like what J.J. Abrams did was unfortunate. Yeah, and I think it is better to emphasize the ordinariness of your hero's roots rather than sort of like say, oh, they're a chosen one or something.
What did you think of the Richard E. Grant cameo in Rogue?
Yeah.
Does that mean Schalke is now sort of canon? Yeah.
Canon? I don't know. Yeah. Is it a Time War artifact? I don't know. Or is it down to the toy maker? Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. I know some people have speculated that, it could be Curse of Fatal Death. And I was like, well, if that's the case, they probably would have picked like
Rowan Atkinson. Yeah,
as opposed to Richard E. Grant there or something.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's more Schalke related.
Yes. Yeah. But also, that's not a great story.
Could also be the Great Intelligence popping up just randomly.
Yeah.
Along with the Clara fragments and now the Sutek everywhere. You've got Sutek watching, you've got Clara watching, and you've got Richard E. Grant trying to meddle in things.
Yeah.
I am hopeful that the Christmas special is going to be really, really good. Stephen Moffat's back to write that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's called Joy to the World, although I'm not sure if that title's been officially announced yet or not, so that could still change, but very much looking forward to that episode.
Yeah.
We do have some sad news. William Russell, since our last recording, passed away last month at the age of 99. A true legend. With Bad Wolf now producing the show, it's kind of fascinating that William Russell was in both the very first episode of BBC-produced Doctor Who and also the very final episode of BBC-produced Doctor Who, bookending the entire 60-year run.
Yeah, that's quite incredible.
And he's still a world record holder, too.
Yeah, and that record is not going to be broken, I think, for a very long time, if ever. Which is longest gap between playing the same character in the same show.
And if it was ever to be broken, it would probably end up happening on Coronation Street, I'd imagine.
Well, or it could be Doctor Who, Carol Ann Ford.
That's true. Yes. Even though there's always a twist at the end, it's never Susan.
It's never Susan. No.
We have a little bit of book news. The official 2025 annual is due out on September 5th. The collection that was once called, I think, 11 Doctors, 11 Stories has now been re-released a bunch of times, and it's now going to come out as 15 Doctors, 15 Stories, which is due out on September 19th. This will feature the novelization of the Destination Skaro minisode for the 14th Doctor's entry. Incidentally, we were wrong last month when we said Borrowed Time was Naomi Alderman's only contribution to the Whoniverse.
Oh, okay.
Because she also wrote the 13th Doctor short story for a previous version of this collection. So if you want to hear or read Naomi Alderman's take on Jodie's Doctor, do check that out. And then we've also gotten confirmation about the 4 Target books coming in August that we talked about last month. So The Church on Ruby Road, Space Babies, 73 Yards, and Rogue. Those are all going to be paperback. And then finally, Panini has announced Black Sun Rising, the complete backup tales Volume 2, coming out on October 1st.
Oh, yes, with some Alan Moore writing in there. That could be tasty.
Very much looking forward to that.
Yes.
All right. So this month we are reading Camera Obscura by Lloyd Rose, which is an 8th Doctor novel. But before we get there, we have show and tell.
Yeah. I think you go first, Matt.
So I recently picked up the 5th Doctor Season 20 Blu-ray in North America.
Okay.
Or, as it's called in North America, the complete second Peter Davison season. And it was released some 9 months after its UK release date, which is one of the longest delays for Blu-ray sets. But fortunately, the gap is only going to be about 4 months for season 15, which by the time this episode comes out, I should hopefully have. And I'm still making my way through all the bonus features, but really, really enjoyed the European road trip with Peter, Janet, and Sarah. And the 40th anniversary edition of the 5 Doctors with new effects and a sound mix, as well as newly recorded audio commentary for that edition was really fun.
Cool.
And it has close to 9,000 pages of bonus PDF material. So Richard Bignell is continuing to scan everything in the BBC archives every year. So that's really impressive.
Fantastic. I am tempted to, at some point, go and do a Arc of Infinity tour of Amsterdam for my sins. So I think I'll have a watch of the Euro tour document.
Yeah, Mark Strickson joins them for that portion of it, which they had to. There's a bit of a gap in the filming there because they had to wait, for New Zealand to leave lockdown before he could come to Europe to film.
Yeah.
How about for you, Chris?
So for me, I went to Big Finish Day, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago now. It was the second time I've been to Big Finish Day, and I found it slightly disappointing.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I mean, I will caveat with June was an eventful month. Let's put it that way for me. And when I was there, I knew I had a family member in hospital, and the next day I would need to travel down and go and see them. So that was there as should you really be here? So that would also probably mean that I would be more likely to get annoyed. Than I would otherwise. But yeah, when they had Paul McGann, which was absolutely fantastic. They had him first up. They didn't actually put online the schedule.
Oh.
And that was his only appearance on stage. So I managed to watch the final 15 minutes of Paul McGann.
Oh.
I did eventually manage to find a copy of a schedule because apparently I was let in via, quotes, the wrong door, because I was let in via a door that wasn't issuing out wristbands or schedules.
Oh.
And I also asked someone who was organising a queue, is there anywhere I can get food? And they said that they don't work there. I thought, oh, okay.
So no con suite open?
No con suite, no. So it was disappointing. And it really guts me to say that, because when I went before to Big Finish Day, they had at least another tract happening at the same time. So if you didn't like what was happening on the stage, you could go and watch something else. And so there was a very intimate series of talks with writers and stuff, which I found fascinating when I went before. This time there was none of that. You were kind of in an amphitheatre, or you were joining a very long queue to go and have your photo taken with people. And also the queues were all converging. So I don't know whether the venue was smaller than they'd expected, or more accurately, whether they had more people than they expected. But yeah. So I'm sorry to be negative.
No,
but it was.
That's good to share your experience, and hopefully future Big Finish days will be better organized and have the schedule ahead of time and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule ahead of time feels basic.
Those one-day events can go one of many ways because you don't have a chance to course correct or make things better if it's a Friday through Sunday event, then it's easier. But
yeah, though, friend of the show, Lisa Bowerman, came on stage at one point because there seemed to be a bit of a gap in proceedings that seemed to be unscheduled, to talk about her wonderful work that happens for an actors' hospice charity that she runs, and it's also an actors' retirement home charity. And it was just wonderful to see her speaking passionately about it, as she spoke about it when we were all in the Twin Cities back in January. But I hope people had a good time. So, I bumped into Theo and friend of the show, and also Theo's partner Georgia, so that was nice.
And Georgia has a brand new Doctor Who book out, Ruby Red, which the audiobook version is read by Millie Gibson. So
she does. Cool.
Folks, do check that out. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this month...
Yeah, we're never getting invited to that, are we?
this month we've read Camera Obscura.
Yes.
Which was originally published in August of 2002 and was the 59th of 73 Eighth Doctor novels published.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, the first and final novels of the Eighth Doctor Adventures range were published on June 2nd, exactly 8 years apart.
8 being a wonderful number as well.
Which
cool.
pops up in the narrative of this story as well in a couple of different ways.
And also 6 + 2 = 8.
It does. Anything you would say about Lloyd Rose?
Yeah, so Lloyd Rose, she was the theatre critic for an American paper. So I think it was the Washington Post. Yes, the Washington Post. She also as well wrote for Homicide: Life on the Street. And she claims in the biography of this book, and also as well apparently in other work, that Lloyd Rose is the pen name and her real name is Serotonin. And I think she also says that some of her relatives also have names that sound like drugs. So she seems like a character. She also wrote the screenplay to, and I'm going to mispronounce this because we spoke about this, I think, maybe last month, and I mispronounced it then. Kedroya? Possibly.
For the Eighth Doctor adventure.
Yeah, the Eighth Doctor, yes.
Part of the Divergent Universe arc.
Yes, indeed. So she wrote City of the Dead, which was very highly regarded. And after this, she'd go on to write The Algebra of Ice. Yeah, and we have not heard from her since, I think. This is when people will say, no, she's written a 12th Doctor short story or something. But anyway, not that I'm aware of.
And this particular book has 25 untitled chapters, plus a prologue and epilogue, and is dedicated to Paul Cornell.
Yes.
And this picks up in the middle of a whole bunch of things happening.
Oh, yes. We need to explain, don't we? We need to previously.
And it's probably, the Eighth Doctor novels at this point were very much like a serialized range. So there's lots of references to things that have happened in previous books.
Yes.
Kind of set some stuff up for the next few books as well. Yeah, so the Doctor's traveling with Fitz and Anji. And we've reviewed her first story where she's actually traveling in the TARDIS, which was Earthworld. Yeah. So we got a lot of character background about her then.
And also, the Eighth Doctor is amnesiac at this moment in time, and so knows absolutely nothing of his past or of the Time Lords or anything like that. And Gallifrey's been destroyed. The Doctor and friends keep on encountering a character called Sabbath, who I think we'd heard mention of in Trading Futures, but this is, I think, our first direct run-in with Sabbath in this incarnation of the show. Sabbath is a mysterious figure who also has a time ship, but it's more of a ship, I think, than the TARDIS.
More like a Jules Verne sort of, because he's a human and he's from the 17th or 18th century. Yeah. And shows up a lot more in some of the faction paradox stuff, or at least his character gets fleshed out more in that series.
And he's quite a muscular presence. I think he's implied in this book that he looks a bit like Orson Welles.
I was gonna ask, who did you cast as him in your head as you were reading this? Because I kind of shifted for me, a few different people, almost like a Mads Mikkelsen or something, sort of.
That would be good casting. Yeah, I mean, I'd seen on the TARDIS wiki some depictions of him in kind of comic form, and so I was kind of thinking of him as a bit like the Kingpin from Marvel. Yeah, because he is not so much an action person because he gets people to do his bidding kind of thing, but there is still that physical presence.
And whether he's a villain or a antagonist, it's kind of his motivations are a little unclear at this point in the series. And
yeah.
Do we also want to talk about what a camera obscura is for folks?
Yeah, okay. Are you able to talk about what a camera obscura is? Yeah.
So prior to photography, it's called a pinpoint camera. So you can project something on a wall with a very small pinpoint. So it's similar to the functionality that you might use to watch a solar eclipse if you don't have eclipse glasses, where you have a pinpoint hole and it creates a projection of the sun during an eclipse, that sort of thing.
It means that unlike a former president of yours, you don't need to look directly at the sun during an eclipse.
Yes, indeed. One other thing to mention too, the Doctor currently only has one heart because
Oh, yes.
Sabbath removed his other heart in a previous adventure.
Yes, this is a crucial point. Yeah.
So that's our previously.
Yeah, previously. Yeah, there we go. And as you say, like, the book just assumes you'll pick this up as you go along. Right. So the TARDIS sort of goes to Victorian England, and the crew are on the trail of a time distortion with links to living beings. And the Doctor follows a lead to a magician called Octave, who seems to be able to travel between locked cabinets more quickly than is humanly possible. And this is a big Talons of Weng Chiang vibe.
Yes.
And suspecting that he knows what's happening here, the Doctor tries to speak to Octave after the show, but the terrified Octave drives him away. And outside the theatre, the Doctor meets Sabbath, who is investigating the same problem. And the Doctor refuses to discuss his investigations with Sabbath because he's still bitter about the loss of his heart and also Sabbath's previous actions in earlier books.
Yeah, and I really like there's a scene in the first chapter where the Doctor's on a train, reminiscing about time he was on a train, which kind of kicked off the whole Earth arc where he spent 100 years on Earth because he woke up and he had consciousness like on a train in that story as well. So then back in London, the Doctor, Anji, and Fitz attend a seance at which a young American named Constance Jane demonstrates that she has at least a genuine ability to read Fitz's mind. However, the Doctor discovers that part of the performance was faked. And you get a lot of fun little character moments, like Anji feeling like she's cosplaying as her grandmother when she has to wear a sari to this event. And Constance seems genuinely distressed by the Doctor learning that part of this was faked. And an alienist, which I think is an older term for like a psychotherapist, maybe.
Yeah, it's what they were originally called when it was starting, and I think there's a TV series on Prime, is it called The Alienist, which is an interesting depiction of an alienist operating in New York around about this time.
And there's an alienist named Nathaniel Chiltern who theorizes that rather than being in contact with the spirit world, she suffers from a split personality. And Nathaniel Chiltern has been attending seances in the hopes of finding someone with such a disorder, and he asks Constance to check herself into his clinic for examination. And at Chiltern's request, the Doctor hypnotizes Constance and confirms that she has another personality within her, a much angrier one, who claims that she's coming out more frequently because something is wrong with time itself.
So Fitz and Anji learned that Nathaniel has had to confine his own twin brother, Sebastian, in a hospital ward for violent patients. And Nathaniel himself suffers from frequent migraines and memory loss, and he frequents opium dens to stave off the pain. And so Nathaniel asks the Doctor to hypnotise him in the hope of learning why he has this trauma and everything. But the Doctor decides to wait until the drugs have worked themselves out of Nathaniel's system. And back in the clinic, Constance Jane, or rather her rather angrier personality, leads him into a trap. Yeah, so this is a book that's going to get quite... Yeah, there's going to be quite a few depictions of, shall we say, mental health from the Victorian times and stuff. So, so brace yourselves, folks. But yeah, so Constance has been driven to suicidal despair by the revelation that she has another personality inside of her. In order to stop her from killing herself, the angrier personality has come out permanently and has released Sebastian, so Nathaniel's twin brother, who'd been kept away in the ward of violent patients, and Sebastian has managed to explain the truth to her.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that, especially in these early chapters, you have to pay attention to a lot of things to kind of piece together what's going on. Like, nothing's spelt out, but a lot is inferred. For example, we don't find out the exact year that they're in, I think, ever, but prior to when police boxes were invented. And, like, also with, like, the Doctor attending Octave's magic show, we don't learn until like that was in Newcastle until a few chapters later. So you kind of have to really pay attention and pull those things together.
Oh yeah, we actually know when the book is.
Oh, do we?
We do. But it's because of an event that happens. So it is 1851.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then the Doctor fears that these time disruptions were caused by a time machine, which is currently switched off, and that the consequences could be cataclysmic if it's switched back on. He then sets off for Liverpool to meet up with Octave again, who's kind of on this touring roadshow. And at this time, Fitz and Anji visit the Great Exhibition, so Crystal Palace. So is that the event that...
That's 1851.
I wasn't sure if like there were additional like exhibitions like later using that space.
No. The Great Exhibition is 1851.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Which is like what, the third or fourth time now we've visited the Crystal Palace. So Missy's wandering around there, and I think another version of the Eighth Doctor from Big Finish is wandering around there too.
Yeah.
Fitz at the Great Exhibition meets up with George Williamson, a geologist planning an exhibition to Siberia, which actually sets up the next book in the series, Time Zero, because Fitz ends up going on that exhibition. And rather less friendly is a gentleman known as Micah Scale, who's the owner of a dark room containing a mirror which reflects a rather uninteresting view of a farm. And this proprietor, Scale, claims that he once had a whole hall of mirrors like this, but that most of the mirrors were stolen from him. So he just has this one remaining one.
Yeah. So over in Liverpool, which is where Paul McGann is from, the Doctor finally contacts Octave and forces him to admit the truth. Octave is just one man, but is in 8 bodies. So his physical self was splintered by a trip through a sort of like a badly tuned time machine. And he's barely survived. And the Doctor inquires about the machine, but Octave concludes that the Doctor is more interested in the machine than in actually helping him. And so Octave is furious about this, and he drops a sandbag right onto the Doctor's chest.
From
on high, in the theatre, breaking his ribs and crushing his one remaining heart. So impossibly, or improbably, the Doctor survives these injuries long enough for Anji and Fitz to collect him from hospital and get him back to the TARDIS, where he connects himself to machines in the sickbay before collapsing into a coma. So that was quite a brutal.
Yeah, the whole scene where Octave, like in his 8 selves, was attacking the Doctor was really creepy, and reminded me a bit of the Christopher Nolan film The Prestige, but that came out like 4 years after this.
Yes, but the book was written before it.
I didn't realize it was based on a book.
Yeah.
I do have to point out that it's kind of hilarious how books of this era go on and on about the Doctor's eyes not having a particular color or switching between colors. At first, it's very unnerving, and it kind of paints the Doctor as having alien qualities. But every time a new character encounters the Doctor in this book, they comment on his eyes, and it's not just an 8th Doctor thing. I recall plenty of 7th Doctor and like 2nd Doctor books that do the same thing. But a little of that goes a long way.
Yeah, at least nobody, from what I remember, describes the Doctor as being tall. Because that's something that happens to the 8th Doctor a lot. And Paul McGann is many things. He is not a tall man.
And also in the seance, I really liked how you kind of got Angie's internal monologue from the seance and how she called it like genteel racist garbage, mystifying an Easter.
Yes.
There's a lot of that in this book, but it is kind of called out and commented on and stuff. So you do get that kind of more modern take on it. And at one point, Angie even gets so tired of like the 1850s that she decides to go back to the TARDIS, puts on some jeans, makes popcorn, and decides to have a night in watching old episodes of Ab Fab. She's like, I'm out of here. Oh.
Yeah.
So, well, the Doctor is comatose. He has a vision of a beautiful garden just beyond his grasp, and every time he tries to step into it, he's pulled back by a silver thread which pulses like a heartbeat. And he awakens in a rage, finally realizing the truth, and sets off to confront Sabbath. And it's easy enough for the Doctor to locate Sabbath's London dwellings because he and Sabbath share this kind of link through the same biodata, since the Doctor's second heart is now beating in Sabbath's chest. And already furious, the Doctor's even less impressed that Sabbath has recruited a so-called angel maker, which is an Irish woman named Elizabeth Kelly, who was found guilty of killing a man and 7 children with identical knife blows. But in fact, the man had also been splintered in time, similar to what happened with Octave. So like Octave, like if you injured one of the copies, then like all 8 of the copies would get, that same injury would show up.
Yeah.
And Kelly killed him without realizing that by killing him, she was killing his 7 quote unquote children at the same time. And she's fiercely loyal to the man who had rescued her from the asylum and showed her wonders, so Sabbath. And when he collapses at the same time that Octave tried to kill the doctor, it was the angel maker, Elizabeth Kelly, her frantic beating on his chest, which saved his life. And they comment that she may have invented CPR in terms of the chest compressions and stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Doctor in previous books had issues with one heart, which have caused him challenges, but they haven't been kind of bringing him to the brink of death, like in the same way that it seems to Sabbath here, who does have like another heart. I guess the biodata is basically it's a bit more than just the same. It's almost like if the Doctor dies, then Sabbath would die.
Yeah, and they're kind of connected in that way, and even the Doctor's scar is kind of like a Sabbath detector, so it kind of tingles when he's nearby.
Yeah,
it's like a spidey sense almost.
Yes, it is a bit spidey sense. So upset sort of by all of this, the Doctor heads back to his rented rooms and finally confesses to Anji and Fitz that Sabbath is here. And Anji and Fitz are overjoyed.
They've encountered him more than a few times by this point, I think.
Yes, like, again. So Sabbath's beliefs about the nature of time have given the Doctor cause for concern, because Sabbath seems to believe that unauthorized time travel causes alternate timelines to proliferate, damaging the structure of the universe. And the Doctor thinks that these views have been cultivated by Sabbath's allies, whoever they are. He also figures that they don't want the Doctor dead, or at least not yet.
And we, of course, know that these allies are the faction Paradox, I think. Not at this point in the books, but in looking back on, I think that's who they are.
Well, I think that they were going to be revealed to be somebody else. So at one point, the BBC were hoping to have like a surprise reveal mid-book of the Daleks. Not in this book, but and so I think that this was tying into the Sabbath arc. But but they couldn't get the rights. But yeah, so the Doctor decides to put all of these questions aside about kind of like what is going on with Sabbath, etc. And he wants to investigate the mirror at Scales' exhibit. So this is the mirror that's kind of like showing like a farm or various other things. And it sounds like a camera obscura, which, as Matt was saying earlier, it's this Victorian little camera type thing. But instead of showing what lies outside of Scales' caravan, it shows something which is nowhere near the exhibition. So the Doctor questions Scale about the mirror, and Scale reacts violently. It's kind of like a little circusy thing here. So there's a giant who's kind of like part of the travelling troupe, a guy called Hugo Little, who rescues the Doctor from the fight, because obviously the Doctor is still quite ill. And the Doctor rests and recovers in the caravan. And he's horrified to learn from the kind of like circus folk that Octave has been found dead in Liverpool.
So then the Doctor confronts Sabbath once again, realizing that he sent Elizabeth Kelly, the angel maker, to kill Octave, and Sabbath had assumed that the fractured humans were the cause of the fracture, but in fact the Doctor recognized the symptoms as evidence that someone is experimenting with temporal interferometry. Interferometer? I don't know. Someone was...
a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone is experimenting with temporal machinations. And properly tuned, such a machine breaks apart and reassembles time as a prism does with light. And improperly tuned, it could shatter the fabric of time and space. And since Octave is now dead, they've lost their only lead. And the Doctor storms off, unaware that Scale is following him. And Scale, in fact, already knows who stole the mirrors from him and had confronted the thief already, who was a gentleman who had paid him handsomely. but Scale had already wasted the money and is still obsessed with the wrong he feels had been done to him. And Scale tries to break into Sabbath's house, and although Sabbath questions him, he lets him go, deciding that if Scale turns out to be important, he'll be able to lure the Doctor into the thick of things. And meanwhile, while the Doctor's busy, Fitz attends that lecture on Siberia with George Williamson, telling Anji that he's 33 years old and he's tired of being a sidekick. And with the whole conceit about like the mirrors and stuff, I mean, that's very much what we first saw in Evil of the Daleks, with being able to time travel via mirrors, and something that RTD picked up on in was it Turn Left, where Donna travels back and she's surrounded by the circle of mirrors, and that's when she first sees the beetle on her back. So here we have 8 mirrors, only one of which is known where the location is, and the other 7 were sold to this mysterious guy.
Yeah. So the next day, the Doctor visits Chiltern at the clinic. So Chiltern seems to have undergone a complete change of personality and turns the Doctor away brusquely. So the Doctor, he's gone there to visit Nathaniel Chiltern. He tries to speak with the brother through the cell window. The twin appears to be in a state of shock and doesn't respond to the Doctor's questions. So the Doctor returns to his lodgings, wondering if Nathaniel and Sebastian have changed places, or are they splinters of the same man?
So that night, when the Doctor's alone, he's contacted by Micah Scale, who is running the Camera Obscura shop, or in his caravan, who apologizes for his earlier behavior and offers to talk with the Doctor over a drink. And the Doctor guesses correctly that Scale has in fact struck a deal with a man who now owns the mirrors to turn over the Doctor to him, who seems to know a lot about them. And hoping to meet the man with the mirrors, the Doctor lets Scale believe he's drugged him and allows Scale to lock him in a box in his caravan. He's then rescued by Hugo Little and Nora, who is the bearded lady of the circus, but then asks them to pass on a message to Anji and Fitz while he remains locked up. And Nora points out that Scale's contact might kill Scale rather than choose to pay him, and the Doctor's disturbed to realize that this hadn't occurred to him. He has Hugo lock him up again, and when Scale returns with transport, the Doctor tries to warn Scale to run away as soon as he's delivered him, and Scale ignores the warnings, handing the Doctor over to Sebastian Chiltern, so one of the brother from earlier, and with a name like Chiltern, surprise, he's the villain, who then has his hospital orderly, O'Keefe, take Scale away, presumably to kill him.
So the Doctor suspects that the Chiltern twins are splinters of the same man, and that Nathaniel had locked up Sebastian when he tried to explain this, and that learning the truth had sent Nathaniel, who is the Doctor, or the medic rather, into a state of shock. And Sebastian neither confirms nor denies the Doctor's theory, but drugs him and takes him to the Chiltern family manor on Dartmoor to look at the time machine. There, the Doctor discovers that the framework is designed so that Sebastian never realised that a mirror was missing, and the brief examination confirms the Doctor's worst fears. Even running tests on this machine could destroy the fabric of the universe. And Sebastian refuses to accept that the machine can't be fixed, and so has the Doctor locked up in an alcove in the wine cellar.
And we should mention too, so with the Doctor getting his chest crushed and stuff, he spends a lot of time in and out of comas and healing trances, and at one point Fitz and Anji decide to take a break where the Doctor bakes a cake in the TARDIS, and he says to them, sometimes you have to stop and smell the flour. Which I thought was a good pun.
Yeah, I think that's an allusion, isn't it, to the Stones of Blood?
Oh, is it? I didn't catch that.
Yes, because Stones of Blood was the 100th Doctor Who TV story. And certainly on the Stones of Blood, they were planning to have the Doctor have a cake that he and Romana could just be eating in the TARDIS to mark the occasion. And then they kind of realised that actually this would make no sense to the audience. It wouldn't be in the context of the story. But yeah, I wonder if it's a Stones of Blood illusion.
Interesting. So Anji and Fitz receive the Doctor's note and reluctantly contact Sabbath to ask for his help. Sabbath claims that he needs access to the technology in the TARDIS to trace the Doctor through their biodata link, But when Anji finally reluctantly allows him in, Sabbath finds that the doctor has set up a force field which prevents him from entering, kind of keyed to his biodata, I think. And Sabbath must therefore build his own tracking device, and he's unsure about how costly this delay is proven. So they're trying to track down the mirrors before they can be used again to fracture time.
So going back to the doctor in the manor on Dartmoor, so he's stuck in this wine cellar in pitch black. He's attacked by something that smells of roses and has a prehensile tail, which feels like an electrical extension cord. And whatever this something is, it examines him and then retreats. And then later, Sebastian's terrified when he learns that it, whatever it is free. So the doctor makes another attempt to convince him they can work together. But when the doctor refuses once again to repair the machine, Sebastian leaves him locked up and sets off into the darkness with O'Keefe. And the creature kills them both and takes the key to the alcove. But the doctor beats it senseless through the gate and flees out onto the moor, where he's being pursued by the creature. And this is here where we have our reading for this month, which comes to us from Kenny Smith, who is very much a friend of the show, and he presents Power of Three and Pieces of Eighth. And Power of Three are going to be having an interview with one Lloyd Rose.
Ooh.
That will be released round about the time that this episode comes out, folks. So
you get a double dose of Camera Obscura.
You do. Yeah, let's have a listen to Kenny.
The moor was empty, but it wasn't vast. 10 miles in any direction, and he'd come to the settled edge. The doctor ran and walked alternately. An occasional rabbit shot across his path. Once, passing a stand of trees, he startled a badger, which stared at him for a rigid, surprised instant before slipping into the shadows. Several times he found himself suddenly among sheep, which trotted nervously aside as he ran by, then stopped and looked after him, chewing. If he'd come across any of the wild Dartmoor ponies, he would have done his best to capture and mount one, but he never saw any. More unavoidable bracken, a surprising and unpleasant encounter with a gorse bush. Heather, which smelled lovely as his stride crushed it, but was uneven and treacherous under his feet. All this time the clouds crept up on the moon, and finally, as he stopped to rest near the foot of a tour, seized it. The light vanished as if swallowed, and the doctor found himself blinking in total darkness. A spot of rain touched the back of his hand, another his face, then, with a brisk patter, the downpour began in earnest. Almost simultaneously, he heard the dog. Not now in the dark and wet. Clumsily, the doctor scrambled towards the tour. Seek high ground, climb up the rocks. The dog couldn't get at him there. Maybe the rain would wash away his track. Water ran into his eyes and soaked his hair. Was he going towards the tour at all? Could he even climb it in the dark? A deep baying bark broke out in the distance, and he began to run. It was more jumping than running, sliding, turning, dodging, barely keeping his feet on the uneven, invisible ground. He fell and rolled and sprang up and ran till he fell again. After one tumble, he rolled down a hill, and though he landed bruised, he was grateful for the distance gained. Thunder began to rumble now, and lightning blazed and cracked. But all the brief flashes showed him was barren, endless moor. He had left the tour far behind. But not the dog. Every time he heard it, it was closer. He was grasping for breath, and his blood pounded in his ears, and every step jarred him to the bone. How ironic if he ran off a cliff. Well, perhaps ironic wasn't the word. What would the word be, he wondered, lungs aching. Not amusing, though, admittedly. There was something amusing about it. And speaking of the right word, he slid and stumbled down a rise, narrowly escaping twisting his ankle. What was that quote? The something of a gigantic hound? Snarling? No. Barking? His foot hit a rock. He recovered, pounded on. No. Yelping? Definitely no. A triumphant howl broke out behind him. Persistence! The doctor frantically shrugged off his coat. The persistence of a gigantic hound! He spun around, throwing up the coat as the dog careened into him, and hit the ground with the animal in his arms, snarling and fighting the enveloping cloth. Rolling the furious bundle off him, the doctor gained his feet one more time and staggered away. It was hopeless. The dog would be free in a matter of seconds. Lightning flashed. He glimpsed a grotesque shadow thrown in front of him, whirled in time to see the wild eyes of the charging horse. Then the night was pitch black and something, with impossible strength, seized his collar and heaved him across the saddle. The doctor's breath slammed out of him. His captor wrenched his arm up behind his back to hold him in place, but he still rocked and slid wildly on the galloping horse. He tried to cry, "Slow down!" but could only gasp. His arm was going to break. He could feel it. Why so fast? He was caught. There was no need. His arm was... The horse reared and the doctor, released, slid to the ground. He rolled away, dazed, throwing up a hand against the brilliant light that had startled the horse. Where had it come from? He turned his head, gaped stupidly at his shadow. The light was blinding at this close distance. Too bright. Brighter than any lights produced in this century. Bright as... The doctor fell back with a noise that could have been either a laugh or a groan. The horse and rider leapt into the darkness, and now he could hear, below the rain, the hum of an engine before its time, after its time, out of any time whatever. He shielded his eyes and stared into the blazing searchlights, just glimpsing, beyond their glare, a brass railing, and the massive figure leaning on it. The next minute, hands were lifting him, and worried voices talking. "Doctor?" said Fitz. "Are you all right?" said Anji. She pushed the doctor's soaked, straggled hair back. His eyes were shut. She and Fitz stared anxiously at his white, rain-wet face. His lips moved, and they bent close to her. "Footprints," the doctor murmured. "Mr. Holmes, they were the footprints of a giant hound."
Thanks, Kenny, for reading that. And again, please do check out his podcasts, Pieces of Eighth and Power of Three.
Yeah. So Fitz and Anji, they've caught a glimpse of the creature as it's retreating, and they notice that although it's malformed in some way, the creature resembled Chilton.
And we jumped over this earlier, but back in Chapter 2, Dr. Chiltern references the Blair Witch in the United States, which I guess brings the Blair Witch films into Doctor Who canon.
Yeah.
Although, according to I Who 3 and Lars Pearson, the mention of the Blair Witch is a mistake, and it had intended to instead make reference to the real-life legend of the Bell Witch in the United States.
Oh, okay.
So it was a bit of a misprint or something.
Yeah, okay. Well, somebody corrected it.
Yeah.
Wrongly, yeah.
Corrected it helpfully, yeah.
Yes. So on the Dartmoor scenes, so the Doctor at one point kind of like runs through a bit of ancient woodland, and with kind of trees that are quite stunted. And so that's a real place. It's called Wisman's Woods, which you can go and visit. You're not actually allowed in it nowadays, I think, because people during the pandemic were going in and they were breaking off bits of the trees, which is a great shame, because I spent a delightful afternoon there many years ago reading comics, just sort of sitting in this ancient woodland. But yeah, so I think the geography might not be absolutely spot on, but certainly Lloyd Rose is able to conjure up like the awesome magnitude of Dartmoor, I would say.
I was today days old when I realized that Dartmoor has the word "more" in the title. Oh, and wow, Portsmouth as a port. Wow.
Yes, yeah.
We of course also have experienced other scenes set on the moors, including in John Peel's Evolution, complete with hounds as well.
John Peel's Evolution is completely geographic hogwash. I mean, it's totally wrong, whereas at least Lloyd Rose's Dartmoor makes some degree of sense. So I go, yeah, all right, I'll let that pass. Lloyd Rose's version of Dartmoor is, I think,
more technically
it's certainly
accurate.
more technically accurate. So it's more there to the spirit of it.
So the Doctor leads Sabbath back to the manor, but the other Chiltern has gone, taking the time machine with him. And it seems that Sebastian was also splintered by the mirrors, But if this is the case, where are the other fragments? What's wrong with the twisted copy? And why didn't it die when Sebastian did? So something else is going on there. And as they ponder these mysteries, Constance Jane, or rather her other personality, Millie, probably not Millie Gibson, arrives with the dazed Nathaniel. And Millie helps Sebastian escape in order to stop Constance Jane, her other personality, from taking her own life and taking Millie with her. But instead of helping her, Sebastian threw her out and concentrated just on helping Nathaniel. And Millie blames the doctor for her troubles, as he was at the seance when it all started to go wrong, and she claims that she could feel herself falling towards him and becoming more real.
Yeah, so Millie's the angry one.
Yeah,
sorry.
And she also kind of has the ability to sense or see like time distortion around the doctor, and to a lesser extent around Sabbath.
Yeah. Oh, also, one thing I was meaning to say is another bit of Devon lore. So Anji and Fitz and Sabbath and the Doctor are all hanging out in a village called Bovey Tracy, which is a real village. And like driving back from visiting my mum, who lives the other side of Dartmoor, I was slightly tempted to drive past Bovey Tracy and take some photos. But like, rest assured that I think most of the places in this book are real. And so I don't know whether Lloyd sort of came over here and did a kind of like a research tour, but certainly passes my test, definitely. Speaking to you also, because we were talking about the Great Exhibition in Crystal Palace, I'm actually going to be walking past the Great Exhibition remains on Friday. So I'm going to a gig there. I'm going to see the National play.
Will you be able to see the dinosaurs, or are those relocated?
No, dinosaurs are still there. Yeah, they're still in Crystal Palace Park. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. It might be a bit of a long walk, given like where they force you to get out at. But yeah, I could say hi to dinos.
I wonder if Sophie Aldred was one of the last people to like climb on them.
Yeah, I suspect that she wasn't authorised to. I can't imagine that she's the last person to have climbed onto them, but I imagine that she's the last person to have done it for a photo shoot and for it to be on a national magazine. But I think the Friends of Crystal Palace Dinosaurs kind of like, I suspect, quite closely watch social media. Obviously, there's more cameras and stuff these days.
Yeah.
But, anyway, sorry, enough of a digression.
Speaking of cameras.
Yes. So, if Chilton turns the machine back on, it could destroy the universe. And Nathaniel can't think of anywhere else that the machine might be hidden. So, Sabbath believes that this disaster proves that free will is a dangerous delusion. And the Doctor disagrees with him. And there's beautiful back and forth here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sabbath accuses the Doctor of endangering the timeline with his recklessness, claiming that whenever the Doctor arrives in a new time period, his interference of history creates an alternate timeline, fracturing the universe and threatening to shatter reality. And the Doctor disagrees again, seeing time as a flowing stream. Tossing a rock into a stream creates ripples but doesn't shatter the water. So yeah, his argument is, what if Sabbath is wrong and his drive to clean up history results in closing off possibilities, therefore robbing the universe of choice and depth?
Well, let's ask Sutek what he thinks.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a wonderful quote in amongst all of that where the Doctor says, "Suffering is the rule, but I want to end it. Despair accords with reality, but I insist on hope. I don't accept it because it is unacceptable."
Yeah.
So,
There's another really good quote too when they're kind of joining up with the circus folk, and where the Doctor says, "Ideas that threaten the center are always pushed to the edge. The truth is forced to keep company with the silly and the rightfully scorned."
Yeah.
So during their argument, Sabbath reminds the Doctor that he owes him his life, which gives the Doctor an unpleasant idea. The Doctor then goes out for a walk on the moors, and when Fitz follows him, the Doctor admits that Sabbath is dangerous and must be dealt with permanently. Fitz reluctantly leaves the Doctor to his contemplation, unaware that the Irish Angel Maker has heard everything. And when the Angel Maker decides to attack the Doctor with a knife and kind of reaches out to stab him, the Doctor ensures that the blow strikes his remaining heart. Fitz and Anji are enraged when the Doctor's body is then found on the moors, but the Angel Maker doesn't even notice, because Sabbath has also fallen into a coma. as he and the Doctor are linked in the same way that the octave and the fragments are Nathaniel was. And Anji watches over the Doctor, but doesn't know why she feels responsible for him, and decides she's finally had enough. And after all this is resolved, she vows that she's going to stop traveling with the Doctor. So she has a kind of a Tegan moment there.
Yeah. And also as well, like when the Doctor's going out for this walk on the moors with Fitz following him, they have quite the row. Because like Fitz really doesn't like the Doctor's implications of kind of like dealing with Sabbath permanently.
Yeah, and the Doctor really goes through the ringer in this one, from getting stabbed in the heart to having his chest crushed. And
so the Doctor descends into darkness, so because he's in this comatose state, into reality deeper than Sabbath can imagine, and ends up speaking respectfully to the dark goddess of these realms. So he's speaking with Death herself. And though contemptuous of the living, Death is amused by the Doctor's cleverness. And when he tells her this affair will most likely end in somebody's death, she allows him to speak to the ghost of Sebastian Chiltern. And Sebastian reveals that he and Nathaniel are natural identical twins after all, but that Nathaniel was mad. And feeling responsible for his brother, Sebastian tried to use the time machine to look for a cure in the future, but instead Nathaniel was splintered. And Sebastian tells the Doctor of another family home in Wales. But before the Doctor can learn more about kind of like some of the splinters of Nathaniel, Death changes her mind and sweeps him away to pay the price for his knowledge. And Sabbath also arrives in the Dark Realms, where Death tries to trick him into snapping the thread which links him to the Doctor. However, Sabbath still needs the Doctor alive for his own reasons, and he realises that Death is trying to trick him because she can't do it herself. So disgusted, Death allows Sabbath to take the Doctor out of her sight. But Sabbath understands what the Doctor's done here, and realises he can never afford to underestimate him again. That's quite a section of the book, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of similar to so you've got Death incarnate, almost like we saw Time incarnate at the end of Flux, or like the White Guardian or Black Guardian.
Yeah, I would say this is done a lot better than Time.
Yes.
But it's also kind of, it is one of these things where I'm going, oh, okay, so death is an actual thing, which I appreciate that was kind of strongly implied in Paul Cornell's books. And like, is it actually literally stated in Paul Cornell's books? Might be. Yeah, this is very much leading into Paul Cornell territory.
Yeah, like the Doctor dancing with Death on the moon.
Yes, yeah.
So the Doctor and Sabbath return to consciousness, and the Doctor admits to the Angel Maker that he tricked her into stabbing him, and that he and Sabbath kept each other alive through their shared heart. He then arranges for Nathaniel and Constance Jane to return to London, mainly to get Nathaniel away from Sabbath before Sabbath works out what the Doctor learned and deduces the truth, as Sebastian wasn't linked to the other Chiltern after all, but Nathaniel is, and killing Nathaniel would kill the other Chiltern, kind of the mutated Rosebush one, just as killing one octave killed all the others. And the Doctor refuses to let Sabbath consider murdering an innocent, and points out that if Sabbath simply kills Chiltern, that they'll lose their only lead on the time machine, and run the risk that someone else will find this and they'll have to start their investigation all over again.
So the Doctor, Sabbath and their companions travel to Wales, but they find no sign of Chiltern or the time machine. And while waiting, Sabbath questions the Doctor's faith that things will turn out for the best. Points out that the Doctor has a history of inexplicable last-minute escapes. Like, as he observes, guns jam, buildings collapse seconds after he gets out, dictators change their deepest beliefs at the last moment, and so on and so forth. And the Doctor, disturbed by this conversation, decides to return to London and see whether the TARDIS can locate the time machine even while deactivated. But I mean, Sabbath is right. But So On the way to London, he asks Anji what she thinks about his luck and is disturbed when Anji suggests he does seem to act as a catalyst in tense situations, tipping latent possibilities one way or the other.
Yeah, that was a great scene too, between the two of them.
Yeah.
So back in London, the Doctor sets the TARDIS scanning whales and leaves Fitz and Anji to keep an eye on it while he tidies up some loose ends by attempting to retrieve the 8th mirror from Scale's exhibit at the Great Exhibition. However, he finds a version of Chiltern waiting for him there, and this time sees him clearly. And so he's the kind of the mutated one. And Nathaniel's always been mad, but Sebastian just wouldn't let it lie, and now he's become much worse since he's been splintered through time. This fragment managed to pull most of the others back into him, along with a few other things from the year 1957. So there's like a toaster growing out of his back, and there's a mouth where his eyes should be, a living worm in place of his little finger, and a rose bush in place of his left leg. So he's very much like a monstrous amalgamation of things.
Yeah, and Chiltern drags the Doctor to the shade of the phantasmagorical exhibit, where Nathaniel has sent Constance through the machine into the past, so like through the mirrors. And with the 8th mirror in place, she has succeeded, as Constance, in entering her own past and preventing the trauma which caused her personality to splinter. And luckily, time has healed itself around this minor change. Nathaniel walks Constance home, while the Doctor remains with Chiltern, and the Doctor, understanding the implied threat, lets him go. Chiltern notes that the Doctor seems fearful of entering the time machine and decides to throw him in. But as the Doctor struggles to escape, Sabbath turns up and advises Chiltern to stop. Sabbath believes that due to the Doctor's unique relationship with time, putting him into the time machine could destroy it. And also Sabbath believes that the Doctor's fully aware of this and was trying to trick Chiltern. However, Sabbath wants the time machine for himself.
And the Doctor pulls himself free of Chiltern and re-enters the time machine, which shatters around him. But as the mirrors break, the Doctor sees 7 other unfamiliar faces in them. So all of his past incarnations. And he emerges from the wreckage of the machine to find that Chiltern tried to attack him, but that the Angel Maker, now knowing that the Doctor and Sabbath's lives were connected, intervened to save his life. And Chiltern killed the Angel Maker, and Sabbath in turn snapped the neck of Chiltern, which also killed Nathaniel as he walked Constance Jane home, because they were connected. And the Doctor realizes that Sabbath loved the Angel Maker in his own way, and enraged at this last insult, Sabbath tears the Doctor's second heart from his chest and departs. And the second heart is dead at last, meaning that the Doctor can now start regrowing a new one inside his own body. The Doctor gives his dead heart to Hugo Little as part of the circus sideshow, as thanks for his help. And so his heart is on display at a traveling caravan, and returns to the TARDIS to ponder what Sabbath had said. Is he really an agent for change? And do the laws of probability change once they're in his vicinity? So we're kind of left on that questioning note.
Yeah, well, we can see that the heart is growing as well. So like that is made quite clear to us in the narrative that that new heart is actually starting to grow.
Yeah, so the Doctor's feeling better, and he some of his other like higher functions, like his respiratory bypass and some of that stuff, starts returning to him as well.
So, what do you make of Camera Obscura?
I thought it was very well written.
Okay.
I didn't get a whole lot of urgency from it, and the plot kind of meandered a bit. There was a lot of breathing room in the book, and it felt like the plot didn't really properly kick off until maybe a third of the way into the book. But what were your kind of initial impressions?
I mean, I very much enjoyed how Lloyd Rose describes Victorian England. Like, there's a real sense of time and place, I think, and it's not the kind of like the the Sherlock cliche or anything. Like we are seeing, we have the smells described to us. Like there's this real vividness, and to kind of like to London as well as to all of the locations I think that we go to.
There's a quote I want to read here where she says, "The doctor for once actually fitted the period sartorially. His cravat and bottle green velvet frock coat were a shade dandyish, but not auteur, and he looked perfectly in place standing amidst the dark, over-carved furnishings, softly lit by gaslight."
Yeah, I think that eloquently sums up her writing. Is, I think, beautiful places. I really enjoyed the depiction of the TARDIS crew, and I'm also very intrigued to read more about Sabbath. It's probably going to be a long time before we read any more about Sabbath, but I certainly sometimes imagine if you just started watching, say, Colony in Space. And like the Master Show, I guess he's probably been in it before, but you wouldn't be like, oh, I must watch some more of this. Whereas here, I'm kind of like, I'm very intrigued as to kind of like where this is going, etc. And I'm interested to spend more time with Sabbath because it's a very that could easily have been sort of like a master style relationship, and it's not. There's clear kind of, it's not a frenemy. It's a very reluctant ally, and there are allusions to Logopolis, and other master team ups. But there's, you can see that the Doctor is very wary of dealing with him, and there's an interesting series of emotional depths to Sabbath and also as well to the Doctor.
Yeah, and there are a lot of kind of sit-down conversations in this book between the Doctor and Sabbath. And if you had been keeping up with the arc, and, this is the climax where, the Doctor's whole missing heart thing is resolved and he starts growing a new one. Yeah. So that must have been really thrilling and satisfying if you had been reading the previous books leading up to this. But to your point, too, I think it does leave you, if you hadn't, which in my case, I haven't been reading these in order and I'm just kind of dropping in and out of them. That it still made me intrigued by like what had happened before and, where is this going and where is this heading? So I did appreciate that, but I think I would have found it more satisfying, had I been in the thick of it.
Yeah. And when you say about sort of a lot of people sitting down and talking, I found it quite hard to choose an area for the reading for this book, because I try not to choose areas that are like dialogue heavy, because it's a bit difficult for the reader and also the listener to kind of figure out who's talking here. And there is a lot of dialogue in this book, though the dialogue I think is pretty good. And the Doctor, I can't remember the exact context, but he sort of like speaks about something being like a bitch or something.
Yeah, that did take me out of it a little bit. I was like,
yes. I think that is when he's just coming round from the coma or something, isn't it? Or one of his many comas. But like by and large, I think the dialogue's on point, and I'd very much want to read more stuff by Lloyd Rose. And I'm a bit sad that there only seems to have been 4 pieces of professional Doctor Who fiction that she's done.
I did appreciate that Fitz and Anji both had some good character moments.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have subplots of their own, where I feel like they were mainly there to react to things and, what the Doctor and Sabbath were doing. And I feel like if, had Sabbath not had such a large role in this, that perhaps Fitz or Anji would have played a larger part. But for the most part, they were kind of the peanut gallery and, at various points walking away to just go do their own thing and like say, I'm out of here for this one. So I would have appreciated a little bit more for them to have something to do, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Though I enjoyed the sense of scale in that whilst, sure, the machines could cause time to fracture and everything, but it's not like an RTD finale. So, there is time for these various intimate moments. Yeah, and whilst I think Anji talks about like people being unaware that like the fate of reality is on the line, I do quite like the fact that it's, we're exploring themes of loss and grief. And as I could have sort of said earlier, I mean, I read some of this whilst I was sitting in the hospital ward, and so I think I might have read more into it, maybe, because of those circumstances. A hospital ward from which I could see Dartmoor. So, like, there were some times where I was like, okay, I'm not sure how much more of this I can read right now. I need to step away and just read something else. But yeah, I don't know. I found it quite compelling and everything. So, right, shall we go on to the scores?
Yeah.
Because I'm fascinated to see what you have to say. Because I think that we're not going to come to the same number.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. I'm giving this a 9 because I really enjoyed it, but I also appreciate I'm bringing in personal bias. I think. Though also as well, it came as a surprise to me that the heart grew back.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting the heart to come back. But like maybe though, if you were reading it, as you say, like if it was you were reading the latest book, then you might have been kind of like, oh, is the heart going to come back in this?
I also don't quite understand how Sabbath can Temple of Doom style just remove one of his hearts and not. It's like he is a human. Humans shouldn't be able to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Left me scratching my head a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
So I tried to approach it as an individual episode in a serialized TV series, because that is essentially what it is, as opposed to completely a standalone novel. And had I not taken that approach and viewpoint, my score may have been like a point or two lower.
Sure. Yeah.
I did really appreciate how gothic the setting was. You've got the asylum, a magic show, a seance, a crystal palace, a fun fair, a circus, Hall of Mirrors. They're all there. But then that almost got a bit overwhelming and almost cliche to me. Like each of those settings, I mean, there is a Big Finish audio with each of those settings, or book with each of those settings. And it felt a bit like an over-egged pudding, where it's like, maybe save some of those tropes for the rest of the EDA authors. I think the only one she didn't get to was a haunted house.
Yeah.
I did also appreciate like the doctor in the mirror machine in the climax was pretty cool, but not unexpected. As soon as we learned there were 8 mirrors, it was like I knew there were going to be 8 incarnations, of the doctor visible. But yeah, I'd say a 7 for me.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. Yeah. It is hard to judge these things or to read these things like from a standalone point of view. Certainly, I mean, I must say I did have to do a bit of delving into the TARDIS wiki.
Yeah, and speaking of, if any of our listeners want to update the TARDIS wiki, the entry for mirrors and like a mirror time machine needs to be updated to include Camera Obscura, and the entry for the Crystal Palace list of appearances also needs to be updated because Camera Obscura is not on that either. So
fair enough. Yes. Get to work, people.
Cool. Well, shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yeah, let's.
All right. We have an email from Alex from the Pandorica Pages thanking us for a recent interview we did with him.
Oh, cool.
Do check it out on the Pandorica Pages blog. We'll have a link in the show notes. And he posed a follow-up question wondering whether we buy the books we review or if we are given review copies. And we don't get review copies, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on your point of view. Yeah. I think personally for me, I feel like buying a copy of the book helps show support for the line, and that means even more books will get commissioned. And also for me, I feel like we get more freedom to be candid or critical with that independence as well. Yeah. I guess there are some reviewers that do get review copies from like eBury Publishing and stuff, but I'm not sure how they go about doing so.
Yeah. I mean, obviously DWM do, but and certainly in times of old, they had a lot more free. I mean, I think, when you read DWM reviews, I think you get a flavour as to what the reviewer really thought.
How about on Facebook?
So we haven't had a lot. We had Keith say thanking us for our Borrowed Time podcast, which is very, very nice of him, very polite. But how about Twitter?
Well, Twitter and Blue Sky, we've gotten our usual flurry of likes and retweets, but doesn't look like we have any specific comments this month. So do check us out on all of our social medias, and please do leave a review for us as well.
Yeah, because that does sometimes happen with the because our most recent book was Borrowed Time, and so that does sometimes happen with the modern series books, and I do think that's a shame, because I think some of the modern series books, especially Borrowed Time, pretty good, and do stand up with comparison to books from earlier ranges.
Chris, do you want to talk about where you're going to be appearing next?
Oh, yes. Next on the Chris tour of conventions. So I'm going to be in Glasgow in August. So I will be appearing at Worldcon just as a guest. So that is the second weekend in August. So I will be there to go and watch the Hugos be announced, which also, dear listener, I've been trying to work my way through the Hugo packet as well, so that I can kind of like vote with a degree of, I do know what I'm talking about here. And like, time is against me. So there is some good stuff in there, as you would hope. So Lauren and I are going to be in Glasgow for, I think it's the weekend of the 9th of August. Do come along and say hi if you're going to be there. I'll probably be wearing a Doctor Who Book Club t-shirt.
And maybe handing out some ribbons if...
Maybe indeed. I didn't bring ribbons with me to Big Finish, say probably just as well, eh? And then after that, in October, you can find me in Chester for British Fantasy Con. So I'll be carrying on my tour of conventions.
Excellent. I will be at Convergence, but that'll be come and gone by the time this episode posts.
Fair enough. Are there any Doctor Who related guests at Convergence this year?
I don't think so. No.
Marvellous. Right. Well, there's one thing we need to find out now, which is, what are we reading next month?
And it's the first of our wildcard picks. And
it is.
I almost like these periods even more than our regular Doctor cycle, because you never know what we're going to get.
Yes.
Although I'm not picking a Benny. Chris, I leave that in your capable hands.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So growing up, I was a fan of book series like the Little House on the Prairie series and Anne of Green Gables. And
okay.
Probably wasn't the intended audience for those series, but I thought they were well written and it felt a bit like time travel reading them.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let's go ahead and judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
Why not?
Oh.
And which book in the series looks most like the painted covers of those books? So for August, and that long, hot, sleepy month, we are going to be reading Summer Falls and Other Stories by Amelia Williams.
Oh, okay.
If Tara Sams doesn't count, then neither does this. So it's written by Amelia Williams.
Right. Okay.
And Amazon still has copies of this in stock, and at time of recording, the Kindle edition is on sale right now for £3, although in the US the Kindle version is $13. So jump on that.
Yeah, okay.
And there are also audiobooks of all three stories, with the readers being Alex Kingston, Dan Starkey, and Claire Corbett.
Okay. But not Amy Pond herself.
No.
Okay.
Well, Amy's daughter, though.
Yes, fair enough.
And I think some of the content was released as web stories once upon a time online, so listeners can probably find it that way too, or via archive.org, although the book contains linking material and stuff, so I would recommend getting the collected version if you want to experience the whole thing.
Okay.
But I figured it fits the month, August and those long summer days. And we'll see what this is. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the Southern Hemisphere side of my family, I think I can feel them yelling, August is not a hot month everywhere.
True. Only for about 80% of the population.
Yes. So for our beloved listeners in New Zealand and Australia, you can vicariously enjoy summer, I guess.
Yeah. And until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris, South London. Happy reading, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
Here we go. We're joining Doctor Who in an exciting adventure on the wilds of Dartmoor.
I don't think it's coming home either. I'm going to go off and experience the Euros and see England lose to Slovakia. I'm fairly sure of it.
You know, next time we talk, we'll have election results too.
We will, and hopefully there will have been a change.